more competent than we are taking care of what we don't know how to take care of alone. This is God, much more competent than us, because only He knows what can truly make our heart happy. You may remember, you may have listened so many times, the story of the lost sheep. When Jesus compares the love that pastor has for the sheep, he will seek the sheep that is lost. He does not let her continue forgotten. He guards responsibly. He needs to leave the 99 that are there. Apparently, it may seem irresponsible, but of course he made care of those who were there. They were already in the right place, and he went in search of the one who was in the wrong place. In this parable, we can discover the beauty of a God who goes out to seek what is lost. It is natural to love to go to get what is lost. And Jesus teaches us that God acts like this. The pastor takes care of the sheep that are there, and realizing that one is missing, he keeps the 99 and will seek what is lost. Also, within the parables of mercy, we find the story of the prodigal son. From that boy who decided to ask for the inheritance and leave, and after living time away from his father, having spent all the inheritance, he discovers at that moment of the absence of suffering, that we know that suffering reveals to us many things important. At that moment of pain and suffering, of solitude, he found that his place was not that bad. He was outraged by what he was living. He was scared of what he had chosen. And what does he do? He encourages himself to fetch reconciliation with his father and ask for forgiveness. In fact, at that moment that the boy finds that he is in the wrong place, that he should be in his father's house, his heart illuminates in a very beautiful way to make him realize that when we are living a situation of errors, it is interesting to know how to give the step to seek reconciliation. And that boy's heart illuminated him to encourage himself to go seek his father's forgiveness. So much so that he leaves. Look, I will live as an employee at my father's house, because I no longer have the right to inheritance. I already spent everything I had. My part, my father has already given me, and I already spent, so he doesn't come back to want to be a son again. He returns to want to be employed, because being an employee of his father was better than living in those conditions he was living. It was the conclusion to which he arrived. My father better treats his employees than I am being treated here. He, in fact, when he left home, he wanted parties, wanted joys, wanted to be realized. He found the life he lived in his house very quiet. And after doing all these experiences, he came to the conclusion that he was wrong. And this is interesting in life. Come to the conclusion that it is wrong and not being regretted. Do not be living the consequences of error in a way, how could we say, disastrously, right? To live the consequence of the error in a disastrous way is that you do not get out of the error. But suddenly you realize, wrong? I didn't do how you could have done it. So you will get the hit that you are still entitled to. God's mercy teaches us this, my people. It is never too late for us to recognize that we are in the wrong place. Sin is the wrong place. The unfortunate choices we are doing that are destroying our lives. This is not what God has designed for us. But then we need to have the courage to believe that the God who awaits us is there to treat us as children, not as employees. And it was the great transformation that happened in the boy's heart. Imagine he returning home, eager to meet a place on his father's farm, but to be an employee, because he was not deserving to be reinstated to his family, to be treated as a son, because he himself no longer wanted. There was a logic in this story, right? Is it fair how many times we lose faith in God because God did not do the miracle as we wanted? But beware, sometimes the real miracle you haven't seen yet. The real miracle was not that person's healing. I always have this in relation to Father Leo. Father Leo, we all pray for the healing of Leo. Who didn't pray for the healing of Leo? We all pray. We could hurry. The healing of Leo did not happen. It didn't happen as we asked. Do you agree with me? He did not live. He did not survive cancer. But what happened in the heart of Leo during the process? of his disease. Don't you think your prayer came to God's ears and that God healed Leo in the best way he needed to be healed before leaving this wall? My people are very relative. Live 20, live 30, live 50, live 40. We are very attached. We are very attached to concrete, carnal, material reality. Father Leo makes a damn lack of evangelization in Brazil. I agree. It is missing in my life. How many times in my life did I want this after the match? Lots of that. But I can't cling to my desire, my needs. The time he lived was the time God needed him here. I am amazed to think that our prayer may not have had an effect on the way we wanted to have, but it has sought in other ways. It is very much pretense of thinking that God will do what we determine. The most beautiful way we have to pray is giving God the situation, and now he takes care. We will do our part. We will seek the treatment. We will streamline our things. We will enter the documentation. We will seek our rights. We will do it. We will do that. We will do that. But there will be a time when we will need to let God's grace and action reach us as he has decided. It's very tiring, my people. I keep seeing this in my life, as it is often tiring, and the process becomes even more tiring when I want to have everything in my hands, when I can't delegate, when I can't trust that member of my team. You can see how we often get exhausted, too tired, because we insist on taking care of everything. We don't know how to delegate. We do not know how to attribute responsibility. Now, have you imagined? If even in our prayer we have difficulty giving God puts in his hands, you don't know what you are going to give. It is faith. Because if you knew what you would give, where you would arrive, what would you be? You would not have to have faith. Having faith is that you put the other's hand and you believe he will do it. How will he do? You need to have faith. Are you going to trust? Often our dissatisfaction is generated there. When we give God the request, but we already give him the instruction manual and how we want that request to be fulfilled. God is not a package leaflet that can be read and can be easily understood. God is mystery. God's revelation in history is evidence of what he is, so that we can reach this truth. But God is preserved in his mystery. Your action in the world is always mysterious. Here and now, right now in your heart, something may be happening. Can any miracle be being performed now? Why did you decide to let God act? Can you be too nervous? Too worried about what will be? What will happen? You may be wasting many energies. Can you be praying for a person and you are terrified because that person can die at any time? Could you be afraid to lose it? Trust. God is by your side. Don't feel just at this time. The worst feeling we can have in life is loneliness. My people. And God breaks this suffering, this feeling, every time we, in a mature way, approach him. Extend our hands and believe that he always has a joy to offer us. A growth to give us. Is it faith? It is an opportunity that we have to give God the right to command our lives, to help us in this process of crossings, of wanderings. We need to get there. God wants our maturity. God wants our growth. Don't be afraid of it. Put yourself in the hands of God. Put the realities you think are too heavy about you. Trust. It is always good for us to know that someone much more competent than we are taking care of what we don't know how to take care of alone. This is God, much more competent than us, because only he knows what can truly make our heart happy. How many times do we lose faith in God because God did not do the miracle as we wanted? But beware. Sometimes the real miracle you haven't seen yet. The real miracle does not. It was that person's healing. I always have this in relation to Father Leo. Father Leo. We all pray for the healing of Leo. Who didn't pray for the healing of Leo? We all pray. We could hurry. The healing of Leo did not happen. It didn't happen as we asked. Do you agree with me? He did not live. He did not survive cancer. But what happened in the heart of Leo during the process of his illness? Don't you think your prayer came to God's ears and that God healed Leo in the best way he needed to be healed before leaving this wall? My people are very relative. Live 20, live 30, live 50, live 40. We are very attached. We are very attached to concrete, carnal, material reality. Father Leo makes a damn lack in the evangelization of Brazil. I agree. It is missing in my life. How many times in my life did I want this after the match? Lots of... but I can't cling to my desire, my needs. The time he lived was the time God needed him here. I am amazed to think that our prayer may not have had an effect on the way we wanted it to have, but it had in other ways. Is it very pretense of thinking that God will do what we determine? The most beautiful way we have to pray is giving God the situation, and now he takes care. We will do our part. We will seek treatment. We will streamline our things. We will enter the documentation. We will seek our rights. We will tight. We will do this. We will do that. But there will be a time when we will need to let the grace and action of God. It's very tiring, my people. I keep seeing this in my life, as it is often tiring, and the process becomes even more tiring when I want to have everything in my hands, when I can't delegate, when I can't trust that member of my team can observe, as we often get exhausted, too tired. Because we insist on taking care of everything, we do not know how to delegate. 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 We do not know how to attribute responsibility. Now you have imagined if, even in our prayer, we have difficulty giving God puts in his hands. You don't know what you are going to give. It is faith. Because if you knew what you would give, where you would arrive, what would you be? You would not have to have faith. Having faith is that you put the other's hand and you believe he will do it. How will he do? You need to have faith. Are you going to trust? Often, our dissatisfaction is generated there when we give God the request, but we already give him the instruction manual and how we want that request to be fulfilled. God is not a package leaflet that can be read and can be easily understood. God is mystery. God's revelation in history is evidence of what he is so that we can reach this truth. But God is preserved in your mystery. Your action in the world is always mysterious. Here and now, right now in your hearts, something may be happening. Can any miracle be being performed now? Why did you decide to let God act? Can you be too nervous, too worried about what will be, what will happen? Can you be wasting a lot of energies? Can you be praying for a person and you are terrified because that person can die at any time? Could you be afraid to lose it? Trust. God is by your side. Don't feel just at this time. The worst feeling we can have in life is loneliness, my people. And God breaks this suffering, this feeling, every time we, in a mature way, approach him, extend our hands, and believe that he always has a joy to offer us. A growth to give us. Is it faith? It is an opportunity that we have to give God the right to command our lives, to help us in this process of crossings, of wanderings. We need to get there. God wants our maturity. God wants our growth. But for us to get there, we need to hold on his hand. We need to trust that the place he will take us is better than where we are today. Don't be afraid of it. Put yourself in the hands of God. Put the realities you think are too heavy about you. Trust. It's always good for us to know that someone. Every time we refer to us, we do it from a conviction that there is a part here in you. You somehow has control of everything. Give the name you want. I like to call it conscience, which is the place where God dwells. I always like to make this religious source. Religious discourse comes along with this understanding of psychology, psychiatry. In my brain, there is what we call conscience, which is the place that knows everything about me. In my book, Wherever I Go, Let Your Heart Be There. If you have never read, I recommend you. It is a very cool book. It is a dialogue of a man with his conscience, and consciousness is a child. I wanted to give such a meaning. The child. She has no rodeos. What she knows, she knows. She is not disguised. Of course, then she learns to be disguised. But you, in the first moment of your life, were absolutely honest. You were extremely transparent with what you felt, what you thought. Then people educated me so that you didn't say everything, just say something. So we are disguised as we are being educated. It shouldn't be, but we are polite. I don't say everything I think. I don't say everything I think because it's a smoothness that I try to observe. So I'm Facingio. I didn't like your haircut. Why am I going to say that I did not like your haircut if it does not change anything? Unless I have a lot of intimacy with you and I suggest, look, next time, I don't know what you think about it. But I think your hair gets better that way. And you have all the right to say, the head is mine, the hair is mine, and I have to like. Then you guess the life of someone you love, but we have this part of us that somehow was not contaminated by hypocrisy, the disguises we usually give. We call it consciousness. When this part of us who have the command identifies that something is not well, she sends a message. And how? We have this message. What is the fever of emotional illness? The conflict. If the body, when it gets sick, needs to give us an indication that something is not right with it, a fever, for example. When we are not quite emotionally, the manifestation is called conflict. The conflict is the fever of emotions. Conflict is that reality that puts you an obstacle between what you are and what you are being. The one you are and the one you are being. It may be that the one I am being today has nothing to do with what I am in my essence. So I was assuming things in my life that didn't tell me respect. And because I was afraid of counteracting someone, I was accepting that like mine. I was staying for me. I was assuming. I didn't have the courage to say that it was not for me. That it had nothing to do with me. And suddenly that situation turned. He turned. And I stopped living well inside. And then I get conflicted. The fever of emotions or conflict. I get conflicted. I don't fall inside me. I don't know how to act. And the conflict, it establishes itself within us. Like a kind of thorn on the pillow. You know, as if you try to sleep in a bed whose pillow is lined with thorns. Every time you head your head, you feel the thorn. It's uncomfortable. I can't sleep. Sometimes that discomfort increases. Increasing. And what do I need to do? I need to face. I need to take this pillow and take a thorn by thorn, throw it away, so that the pillow is comfortable again. In emotional life, the same thing happens. Staying in our life structure, and we are living with that, and we are going through the days, and we adapt to it. It's like we adapted to the disease, as if you adapted to fever. No, your body was not created to constantly be feverish. By the way, fever is horrible discomfort. You lose your encouragement. You lose your willingness. You have to take an antipyretic. But what is the antipyretic for the conflict? What would be the portion that would have any action on this conflict? The confrontation. What is the confrontation? It is the capacity, the courage you have to put yourself in the face of what is being uncomfortable from the point of view of emotions to you. Why am I feeling this? Why am I so uncomfortable in me? And you try to identify it. It may be that you have assumed a lot that was not yours, that it was not for you, that it has nothing to do with you, and you were adapting. You may have extended that relationship that you know that has ended a long time ago. There is no respect. There is no love. There is no solidarity. There is only obligation. That relationship can be friendship. It can be dating. It can be marriage. It may be whatever. Every relationship needs to be purged. Our relationships, even the obligatory. You need to purge your relationship with your children every day. Or if it's not every day, because we'll be there eternally therapeuting everything. It would be ideal. But he may put you the rule of at least once a week think about the quality of your relationships. How are you taking the bonds you have below? And you identify the conflicts that exist in each relationship. Even that relationship that does not go through someone else, but that goes through a choice. The work you have, for example. A work is not a person, but it is a choice you made one day. And it may be that your body, your emotions are trying to show you that this work is a place of unhappiness to you. That you would be much happier and much better if you even won less. But we're working on something you accomplished. Okay, but then you can say to me, Father, and the stability I've achieved? You need to weigh this, even to be entitled to choose from instability, knowing that it can be imprisonment for you. But even choosing instability, even knowing that it hurts you, it needs to be a choice. This conflict needs to be remedied, needs to be heard. Okay, I come to the conclusion that I am unhappy in my work, but I get it because of instability. But you then made the confrontation. You arrived at the answer. What is cruel is when you arrive, it doesn't reach an answer, but you wreck all the time on the huge waves of your discontent. I wouldn't be in a place, even if it gave me stability, being unhappy. But other people have the right to live it. Yes, even to be happy people have the right. And I know that sometimes it is hard to look at this and allow the other to be unhappy. How many times have I wanted to change the heads of the people I love because I wanted happiness for them? They did not want the same time that I needed to somehow be well with the option of not being able to interfere anymore. It's okay. The life is yours. Everything I had to say, I already said. Even I will stop talking so as not to be that unpleasant thing too, to be forever saying the same thing. But from this moment on, he lives his conflict and decide if that's what you want. Then it's good. Even to be unhappy, you have the right. Even being unhappy, you have the right. And I can't interfere with your choice. But it is good that this choice has gone through confrontation. I face my conflicts. I don't leave it for tomorrow. Okay, this tomorrow, my people. I don't need to read literally. Sometimes tomorrow is next month, or after this pandemic. I came to the conclusion that many people already completed this before me. I took this to me as a rule of life, that I can never make an important decision when I am very happy or when I am very sad. Important decisions should only be made when I am in the balance of my emotions. Not so much there, not so much here. To understand me, note. Sometimes I go through difficult times when I want to react immediately, I think, so that I will react to it now. If life is still working. Life is still working. How many things I thought I had an understanding of them, and suddenly I realized that I had nothing, and thought showed me my God, that illusion to mine. Think I had an answer to that and didn't. Sometimes I thought I was seeing the truth. Was not. It was a mistake. Time came and denied it. So, today I have had a lot of patience with me. A lot of patience. I need to have. Because otherwise, my life will be based on the impulses. I cannot be impulsive. I came to the conclusion that for me, impulsivity puts me in a context of a lot of stupidity, rational stupidity and emotional stupidity.
I don't receive things on a silver platter, as is commonly said when things come easily. God gave us freedom as a gift. I carry it within me. You carry it within you. We all received it. Now, being free is another matter. It's like having a plant that needs to grow through the care we give it. When you water it, when you fertilize it, so that all the potential in the seed develops, and that seed can become the tree that potentially exists within it. The same thing is true of freedom. Being able to say, I am free today, means acknowledging that you are in the process of liberating your own freedom. Because only those who possess themselves can offer themselves. Only those who are truly free can experience this. This freedom might be what fascinates me most in life, because sometimes I find myself a prisoner of such childish feelings, like jealousy and comparison. Increasingly, life leads me to understand, from my experience and the experience of those around me, that the true experience of God places us in a context of maturity that frees us from all the burdens and ties that childishness imposes on us. Sometimes we don't understand that the lower realities of our lives, the passions of the soul, need to be mastered from top to bottom, not bottom to top. So it's really an exercise, a spiritual exercise, to raise the drawbridge of the inner castle and say, okay, let's meet these folks who inhabit me. Often, our love, instead of protecting, it unprotects because it infantilizes. It's often marked by a lack of reality in love. It's like a person in love who can't see reality. A passionate mind, a mind very involved with another person who has just arrived, is a danger. It's dangerous to make wrong decisions. Passion blinds. I always like this distinction. Passion is the antechamber of love. We can only say we love after extinguishing all the incendiary fires of passion, because they are dangerous. And you have the right not to like someone, Fábio. We have the right not to like someone. Liking is one thing, loving is another. I can sympathize deeply with you. We have a delightful connection. But I don't have to love you because I didn't choose to love you. Loving is a choice. Sometimes in our daily lives, we don't know this difference, and we don't even give ourselves the right not to like someone. If someone is almost dying and needs my help, I go there. I am a Christian. I serve Christ, but I don't need to eat popcorn at the cinema with the person. Of course, you can set a limit. Yes, with affection. Love includes respect. That's what you're saying. I won't harm you. I won't boycott you. But on the other hand, I also don't have the obligation to socialize, to establish this daily bond, to exchange phone numbers. Sometimes people are very confused. It's real immaturity in understanding Christianity. Oh, how many times have I suffered from this immaturity? I have been so immature. Oh my God. So much that today it is easier for me to understand when someone is immature with me. Sometimes I meet people absolutely on the margins of the Christian experience, still based on obligations, suffocated by the obligations that happen to exist within Christianity. And sometimes I meet some people so free, who seem to have found the deepest aspects of Christianity. You spoke of the stages we need to dive into to reach what is most untamable in us. And Christianity is a movement precisely that goes through conquering what is untamable to then live the freedom of being who you are. Discipline is the word of today. We are increasingly immersed in a context that relieves us of discipline, and this is very sad. It's very sad when we identify that our children are becoming strange. They're becoming strange to any kind of sacrifice, because life has to be like this. Life, we have to make it easier. Fine, today's conveniences are very good, but they cannot take away from us the opportunity to live asceticism and the discipline that make every man, every woman find this balance, this maturity. How the world today stimulates us outward all the time. How difficult is inner life these days? It's a costly task. My therapist always said, we think that inner life comes for free, comes in the life package. I was born, so I already have everything internally installed. It's as if I had several programs to run, but I need to understand how they work. And really stopping talking or being away from people is still not being alone. It's still not being silent inside. Sometimes we think we don't have control over our thoughts. Yes, we do have control over our thoughts. Thoughts need to be educated at a high level. We need to elevate the level of thought with good content. Oh, my head is full of nonsense. For intellectual life, you need to educate thought through concentration. Spiritual life is no different, right? Sometimes we pray asking God, take this out of my head. And then our Lord sometimes provides us with a good movie, a good book, good music to educate and channel our thoughts, and we end up fighting in an inner ignorance about how to deal with it. And in fact, we need to live that reality of the superior dominating the inferior. So I have my instincts, my emotions, my feelings that are more conscious, my thoughts, my will, which are decisions based on my thoughts. And then comes the spirit. I can even place will and thought here. No one, nothing can enslave the mentality of someone who truly wants to be free. It's like in that movie, The Shawshank Redemption, when that man spent so many days in solitary confinement, imprisoned there. When he got out, they asked him, "How did you manage to stay there?" He said, "It was easy. I listened to music all the time." Then the other said, "But how? There's no music there. It's all in my head. It's here. It's in the head that we are liberated. That's why it's here that God happens. When God enters my mentality, when God changes the way I look at myself, the way I look at the world, He will naturally change the way I look at those around me. He will change the way I see my restrictions, my losses, and then there is no other destiny to seek, to conquer, to experience, but satisfaction. Despite so many difficulties, we can smile and say, life is worth living because my head is helping me make it worth it. Father Fábio, why is it so much easier to hurt the people we love than to hug them and say kind things? It's because, in reality, human aggressiveness is undeniable. Everyone has aggressiveness, even the sweetest people. Those who speak calmly, they are full of aggressiveness. Some control it more, others control it less. Some control it too much, and suddenly it explodes because aggressiveness is a very positive impulse. We can't think that aggressiveness is just a bad thing. No. Aggressiveness is an impulse that even helps us succeed in life. In many moments of our lives, we lost because we lacked aggressiveness. That impulse to move forward, to overcome, to deal with the difficulties that are part of us. People who are too soft don't like that constant nourishment. Nothing is good. It gets better one day, the next day, it's not good again. These people lack aggressiveness, a positive aggressiveness, which is this survival impulse, which we inherited. This is ancestral in us. Often we take out our aggressiveness on the people we love because we are unprepared to deal with this aggressiveness. And today we know, we talked about this before finishing the first segment, we are living in a time of great tension. We are overly demanded because we have many possibilities. Humans end up getting lost among all these possibilities. And this generates a great anxiety, which is the feeling of not reaching, of not living what they need to live. And it is natural that at a certain moment, this aggressiveness will be directed at those closest to us. Because you can't, a very simple example, sometimes a guy is at work really wanting to hit his boss, but he can't. He will get home stressed with everything he experienced, and his poor family will take the brunt of it. And that's where the issue of our control comes in, folks. We need to control this aggressiveness a little. And I'm not saying something I don't need to hear myself, okay? Because many times I am uncontrolled with my aggressiveness. So I need to be very careful not to let my aggressiveness come out at the wrong time, in the wrong way. I need to direct my aggressiveness into my books, my reflections, my physical activity that I make a point of doing. That's where I need to channel my aggressiveness so that I can treat people fairly. I can't take out on my mother the anger I carry within me, which is natural to my being. And you know how difficult the mother-child relationship is, because it is the place where these aggressions are very much on the surface. Maybe because it is the closest bond we have. With all due respect to the father, the closest bond, I think, is with our mother. And it is natural that our greatest difficulty is with her as well. It is very common to find children who have a hidden hatred for their mother, a hidden hatred for their father, and do not have the psychological conditions to assume this aversion, because in the name of this romantic love we are raised with, that a child should never oppose their mother, that a child should never say, "I hate you." It is natural that at a certain moment in life, our aggressiveness makes us experience this hatred towards the people we love most. Because hatred is the opposite of love. It's the same thing. Psychology teaches us that love and hatred come from the same impulse, the same source. So, managing this aggressiveness today is a necessity. Because you must have seen this happen many times, that sometimes a person is capable of pulling out a gun and killing another person in traffic because of the intolerance of that moment of aggressiveness. So, for us not to need to kill each other, for us not to go around slapping each other, we need to discover where we can channel this blessed aggressiveness in the right way, in a positive way. If you have a lot of aggressiveness in you, channel this aggressiveness to work in your favor. Your creative process, your dynamic, your entrepreneurial spirit, channel it there. This is not magical. It is not overnight, but with awareness, I know I am aggressive. So I need to be careful that my aggressiveness doesn't end up harming others. I personally asked God during this Lent for the gift of silence, and it's not just the silence of speech, it's the silence of, the written word, that need to immediately respond to others, to everything that bothers you, to everything you find invasive. I want to have the right to be silent. I don't want to have to explain everything all the time. This is a right we need to preserve. At home, sometimes it's like this. Sometimes in a relationship, how many times are you demanded by the other? You have the right to be silent. You have the right to make your silence. And the other needs to understand that your silence might be the moment you are taking care, not to say what you wouldn't want to say. So, the control of this aggressiveness today needs to go through this experience of inner life, as we talked about in the previous segment. The inner life, this experience of cultivating who you are, of having your moment of relaxation every day, even if it's just 10 minutes, folks. I particularly think it must be very difficult to live in a very crowded house where you don't have the right to your personal silence. Isn't it difficult? You who live with many people in the house. At home, I have my space. There are the people who work with me, my friends who visit my house, the people from my close circle, my family. But I am very reserved. When I want my silence, I don't even make an effort to be polite. Look, folks, I'm leaving. I withdraw because I need this spiritual life, this inner life, because otherwise I become worse than I already am. And I don't want to. I don't want to be worse than I am. I don't want to get worse. I don't want to move backward. I want to move forward. So I want to discover everything in my behavior, in my choices that will favor my progress. You need to do the same thing. It's your right. But here at home, it's difficult. Create your space. Create your routine. Discover in your daily life a way to cultivate this inner life. Some people read the gospel of the day. I think the gospel of the day is an excellent way to create inner life. Because when you commit to reading the gospel of the day, you have the daily liturgy. You can follow it through the Bible in year A, year B, year C. You read the gospel of the day, you stay in communion with Jesus' word, and at the same time, create your 10, 15 minutes. You read the gospel and make your reflection, your moment of silence, which will help a lot in controlling this aggressiveness. Then there are other things that help as well. Physical activity, as we have already mentioned, the prayer group, the sharing group, reading. My God, how a book calms us down, folks. Books are fantastic. Blessed is the person who learned from childhood the pleasure of reading. They will be much more peaceful in old age than those who don't like to read. because it occupies the time, right? When you are getting old, what will you do? In old age, we will have much more time because you will stop working, you will be retired. I can't wait. You won't be in the rush anymore. So you will have all the time in the world to cultivate yourself. What a wonder, having extra time for this inner life to shape your routine in a way that favors channeling all these positive impulses, like aggressiveness, which, if placed wrongly, becomes a tool of destruction. Thank you for joining us today at Path of Faith. Your engagement means the world to us. So please take a moment to leave your comments, like this video, share it with friends and family, and subscribe for more enriching content.